Wow, it felt like that took forever between the end of the sequence and the start. I don't. I'm gonna have to rejigger that. Good morning, Mark. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Steve. It's good to be with you. I'm actually joining you from home today, so I don't have my crosses behind me. I'm from home.
We should get you should give us a tour of your lovely home for those of us who've not ever been there before. No?
We should do that. We should do that. And in fact, today would be the right day. Annette's down in her office working. She's a coach. She works with coaches or with a clergy, and she coaches them. And she said there are deer in the backyard, so we now have deer hanging around in our backyard. Always a joyful thing.
That is a joyful thing. Always and everywhere.
Yeah,
Yes, a good and joyful thing, always and
good and
everywhere.
joyful
Throw a
thing.
little liturgy into the conversation today. So, yeah, you're at home, slacking, hanging out. No big deal. You're probably not working on your sermon or anything like that. Just taking naps all day long. Yes, that's the situation, right? No,
That's the way it always goes, right? No, I am home
never.
today because I have a doctor's appointment, and I had the sore throat in the middle of the night. And in the world we live in, I did a COVID test and it was negative, but called the doctor and said, "Hey, I think I might have strep throat. I'm not sure what I have. Act as if you have COVID." And so my 5 o'clock appointment, I'm having to actually work from home, and it's what we were talking about before we started. I'm actually getting a lot done working from home. It's been
It's
kind of nice.
It's true. I often find that I am much, 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 much more productive when I'm at home than when I am in a church building because it's not a bad thing. I mean, right? We're all
Yeah.
about building community, and we're all about building disciples, and that requires actual face-to-face conversations, which happen in
But
church buildings, I think. But then
I
there's a
think that's
lot
the way
of
to say it. That's
yeah,
I think that's the way we need to say it. Is I'm getting a lot of administrative things done that are important, but I'm
right,
not getting the fellowshipy, connecting, pastoral stuff done, which is
right.
probably even more important. But
It's
speaking of
definitely much
community,
important.
welcome to the community that is this gathering on our Thursday live experience. Glad that you are joining us.
Yes, indeed. And this, as a constant reminder, we've got a good crowd today already joining. We're grateful for you being here. Thank you so much for taking this time, and for all of you who are watching after the live presentation. Really, thank you also. I heard
Mhm.
from several folks this weekend who said, "Yeah, I'm not able to be there at 11 o'clock, but I watch it at 1 o'clock. I watch it after it's done, because it's really good." I gotta say, Mark, this is I think Mark and I both commented to each other about how this is the best part of our week. Just
Oh,
about. I
very
mean,
much.
there's a lot of good things that happen, but this is something I look forward to so much. So this is a live conversation. As always, I remind you that it is made much more enjoyable and much more wonderful if you participate by putting your comments in the chat. And if you're on Facebook, I think I get comments from other platforms, but I know I do if on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, definitely join in the chat, make smart comments, talk about how long Mark's hair is.
Oh,
Um, and look, I mean, it's ridiculous.
it is.
He's just letting himself go. It's
That's the
ridiculous.
truth.
But yeah, especially toward the end when we get to time to ask questions, I think that's really where we get a chance to answer questions. Rather, that's where we need your participation most of all. So, yeah. So coming up this weekend, Memorial Day weekend. What do we need to know about things this weekend? Church is canceled,
Well,
right? No, I didn't say
right.
that. I didn't even plant that seed. I'm sorry.
Good night. No, we are having worship. In fact, Memorial Day weekend is one of the time. Frankly, the church struggles with trying to keep nationalism out of worship. The worship is all about God and focusing on God. But I will give Memorial Day credit. It is the reminder, in a very tangible way, of people who thought of themselves as participating in something greater than themselves. Those who lost their lives serving in the military, they give us one of the visual metaphors that we need to understand Christianity, and that is, it's not about me; it's about something bigger, and that's a great gift. And also remember, the office is closed on Monday, so anything you need from the office, you'll need to make sure you handle today or wait until Tuesday.
There you go. Absolutely. And everybody's going to be not answering their emails or their phones or anything like that, right? I mean, it's closed. No, that's not
Uh,
true. See, I'm full of falsehoods today, and it's very bad. It's you're I
I was
can
going to
see that.
say,
I can see that look in your eyes, like shut up. He's doing
would
damage here.
well, no, what I'm thinking is I would that we were that disciplined. We need to have days off. We need to not answer emails. And yet we are so committed to our job. So too many of us do that. And it's not a good thing. We
Well,
need to
because
have that
life
time.
goes on, things happen, and I think you and I are both affected this morning by the passing of Betty Kyle, and Betty just such a dear person throughout my life, and of course Jeff, as staff member, it's really significant, very significant. It's all everything is always these things are significant, but for me personally, this is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Those of you who do not know Betty or knew her, this is the wife of Ken, who's a member of our congregation, and Jeff Kyle, who is leader of our contemporary band, his mother. So just be thinking about Ken and Jeff and their families this weekend, especially.
For sure, for sure. All right.
All
So
right.
what have we got? What have we got today? I think I'm thinking we're continuing in our kind of series of bald men with some facial hair. Who have we got?
Yes, we're pleased to welcome another bald man to join us, Matt Holder. I actually am very excited because Matt, as most of you know by now, is the director of our recovery ministries at First United Methodist Church in Oak Ridge. It's one of our newer positions, and let me just tell you, I cannot say enough good things about Matt and the work he does. Every time he turns in, here's what I've been doing for the week, or here's what I've done for the month in terms of his recovery ministry, connecting to organizations in the community, helping people one on one, helping people find in house treatment plans, finding treatment. He does a remarkable job, so I'm really pleased that Matt's going to join us today.
It takes a special kind of person to do that work. I mean, it really does. It takes a remarkable commitment, which I don't know. I'm going to get out of here because Matt's the real deal, and we need to give him as much time as possible. So here we go. I'm going to switch over to you guys. Let's
Thank you,
turn
Gentlemen.
Matt's microphone on, and then here we go.
Good
Yay.
morning.
Good
Steve,
morning,
that's
Matt.
not the
Thank you,
first time
really.
I've heard I was special before. Definitely. I
Well,
don't
I
know if it's
mean it.
in context, but
I mean it.
definitely.
You have been a wonderful, wonderful addition to our church family, and you've really not been working for very long with us, and yet we are already seeing a lot of things taking place in the church. So thank you for being here and being with us.
Oh, pleasure is all mine. I love my job here. It's uh, it's been a huge blessing for me, really, just to be able to come back to my hometown and try to make a difference.
Yeah. Well, as you say, it's your hometown. You grew up in Oak Ridge. I would love for you to share, for those who didn't get a chance to read the church-wide email that you sent out about your own personal story, could you give us the quick overview of why recovery ministry matters to you? What led you to this place?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a person that is in recovery from substance use. My being able to look back on it now, my issues really probably started at the end of high school, early college. It didn't become unmanageable until way later in life. And what I could see through this process is I could see the disease of addiction progressing. They
Mm.
it is a progressive disease, just like a lot of other diseases, and it certainly went that way with me. My drug of choice was opiates, and it gave me a very safe. The best way I know how to put it is it made me feel like what I perceived a normal person felt like on a daily basis. There wasn't the anxiety, there was energy, I could get things done. It seemed like a great solution to pain and anxiety until it wasn't.
Mm.
And that's really where the struggle comes in is learning or realizing that you need these medications. And so basically what happened for a long time after that was a series of me trying to get better. And every time I would have a reoccurrence of use, it would go back and it would get worse every time. It would progress. And I can see that. I probably couldn't see it at the time. A lot of attempts to do it myself, which some people would call like white knuckling it. That
Mm-hmm.
did not work either. It always ended up in the same place, except it the consequences were greater. My relationships were worse. Nobody wanted to be around me, and rightfully so.
Mm.
Um, it ended up bringing me to a point of really there's a lot after and there's a lot before, but that defining moment, I was in a place where it seemed easier to die than it would seem to live.
Mm.
And I think this is a very common feeling for people that struggle with this. You
Mhm.
hate yourself. You can't look at the mirror in the mirror. That's one of the things that a lot of people do early on is they call it mirror work. To be able to do that, I remember having to open my mirror or bathroom mirror had a door on it. So I like if I was brushing my teeth or shaving, I didn't want to look in the mirror. So
Mm.
that's a tough place to be in, and um, it had the disease of addiction had progressed to that point to IV drug use, um, which kind of fast forwards all the consequences. And it was just this moment of I had always been a believer. I
Mhm.
feel I had a separation spiritually in active addiction. I knew in the back of my mind the difference between right or wrong. Um, I knew that there was a lot of sin in my life. The I had the desire, I couldn't carry that out.
Mhm.
So there was a kind of you would hear it described in AA meetings as a foxhole prayer, um, and it was one of those times that God answered a prayer very quickly, and it was it's really interesting because I was so confused on what to do at that time. It was about a 6 month period of time, and it was like instantly I knew what to do. And
Mm.
then to be able to just see God work in this journey from the beginning to present has just been a blessing. There's been so many blessings along the way, and it's really neat to watch this process in others as well.
Wow. I cannot thank you enough for your just willingness to share and your authenticity of your experience. And I love The theologian in me wants to say, isn't that wonderful that when you called out, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with a foxhole prayer when you're in the foxhole. When you're in that moment of feeling like there's bullets whipping around you, hey, any prayer that calls out in authenticity to God is a wonderful, wonderful gift uh, to offer. And I love the fact that when you felt God answer that, there was a sense of order. I think that's one thing biblically and theologically we would say, that you knew what to do next. God is a God of order in that sense. And it's not perfectly ordered in our lives, but at least you saw a path, a direction. So
Hmm.
love that. The
Thank you.
I will say that Matt came into our church's life because we had another, as Matt was describing all these things he's going through on a personal level. We had someone come forward in our congregation who made a large gift to the church with the caveat, I would like to see us pursue a recovery ministry. If the church is interested in doing that, wonderful. Here is a gift. If the church isn't, I understand not all churches are, but I'd like to take that money and put it somewhere else where there is a recovery ministry or to develop one. So we started exploring how would that look? What would it look like? And we came up with a plan to hire someone for a 6-month period. And the goal of that 6-month period would be to just explore, is there a need in Oak Ridge and in Anderson County for another aspect of recovery ministry? And so we publicized this, and we had a few people who put in their resumes, and I kept looking at these resumes and thinking, oh my gosh, no, these are not the right people. This is not going to work. And then Matt came into our pool, and it was so obvious, and certainly from the interview we did, that he was head and shoulders above everyone else, and that has borne fruit. It has been that way. I'm curious, as you stepped into that interview process with us, what were you excited about the prospect of working on a church staff or developing a new program? Is that something that's been interesting to you, to develop something as opposed to just run or lead an established program?
Sure. No, it was. I'm not going to say that it was something from the beginning of my goal was like when I was first getting into recovery, I knew I wanted to help people, and that was really my goal. My goal was to get to that point. However, in the whole journey, not just this last time, because there were important times, the faith-based recovery programs were really home to me, and that's where I met my sponsor today. A lot of really close relationships, and so the idea of doing something like this was very appealing to me, and it and then the fact of it just being, even though I didn't grow up in this church, I was aware of this church and being in Oak Ridge, and it really did just feel like a God situation.
Yay. Well, it was from our perspective. I'll say that. Um, as so, Matt came to us, and he was part of this 6-month exploratory process, and kind of informing the committee that we were working on this with, to say, is there a need? What is the need of the Anderson County area? What is the need in the Oak Ridge area? So I would love for you to take just a moment and address how badly needed is recovery ministry and recovery programs today. We keep hearing about this rise in the number of overdoses. Is that your experience, that you see increased usage of drug and alcohol, and the need for recovery?
Well, there's no doubt of the increase, and if you look at the last 10 years or so, it's just steadily gone up, and it's happening right here. It's happened in this congregation, and it's not just the opiates or it's alcoholism. It's that escaping from pain that we were talking about, or not, we weren't talking about, but the documentary was talking about last Sunday. It's it, yes. The answer is yes, definitely. And I knew going into this While that definitely was a question of the committee, the search committee that hired me, I kind of knew the answer
Right.
before it even started. Is there a need? Absolutely, there's a need. And there's a lot of good organizations out there that do a lot of good work. It's just you can't, there isn't enough um, to help everybody that needs to be helped. And then you run into as well that there's gaps that other organizations can't can't help with. I mean, maybe it's just one of the recent things is that being able to help is just giving people rides to meetings or whatever they appointments, whatever they have going on, because that's an obstacle. There's so many obstacles that we could sit here and talk for hours, but I do like the fact that the church has a really good opportunity to fill in those gaps and be develop a community for these individuals to heal and have a and know that their life isn't defined by um, their disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I honestly don't think we have time for you to list everyone from memory and all the different programs you've connected with. But it is no exaggeration to say that in that 6 month period of time, and even since then, when we've hired Matt as full time now on our church staff, you have. I'm not exaggerating when I say you've connected with the 40 to 50 different programs and tried to learn about them, faith based, community based, in the greater Knoxville Oak Ridge area. That's accurate, right? 40 to 50
I
at least.
Yeah, I would say probably a little higher than
Yeah.
than that. I do believe that we need to connect with these organizations. We need to develop partnerships. No kind of competition. Just everybody has the same goal, and that's to help the sick. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of what we're doing here is just building those community relations.
Right. And now I know there are a handful that you're really closely aligned with: the Metro Drug Coalition, ASAP of Anderson County. Uh, any others that you would want to name just for the group that's watching that are really the key players in your participation
Well,
in the
we
community?
really we're really trying to support any of the. There's several programs in Knoxville. There are programs here in Oak Ridge, Hope of East Tennessee.
Yeah.
There's other halfway houses. We really have started to do some partnerships with ASAP. And Metro has definitely been very supportive of this and helps in any way, even though they're Knoxville. But that's just how the recovery community works. Is people are there to support. All these organizations have a lot of exciting things going on and do wonderful work, and we just want to be able to support, whether it be a setting up a table at an event or just attending the coalition meetings. For example, with ASAP, we've co-hosted a lot of events. We co-host the Narcan training once a month. We are going to partner with them for a overdose awareness event in August, and so those partnerships have really kind of taken off and continue to grow, and I think that benefits the people, ultimately the people that we serve.
Yeah. Now, I've been talking about Matt, and he is certainly, as the director of our recovery ministries, I want to make clear he is not alone. We have an excellent committee, recovery ministries committee, led by Caroline Beidler, and they've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work to get our ministries where they need to be for this next phase. Um, if you are interested in learning more about that committee or being a part of that committee, please consider talking to Matt. But I would love for you to talk about the work that your committee's been doing. There's been a lot of things going on now. Can you say a word about like the Facebook page, the your website, all the things the committee's been doing behind the scenes to get ready for this past Sunday?
Sure. So, like we had mentioned at the beginning, this was a program that didn't exist. I guess it's been about a year since we even started
Mhm.
looking at, is this an option? So there's been a lot of work as far as what is it going to look like, uh, and even getting up to the point of being able to have the website and social media pages. And the committee is, there's so many different talents, and everybody there um, seems to have some reason uh,
Mhm.
why they feel passionate about this. And it's it's really comforting to me, because a lot of times there's things that you know I don't have experience with, and that's where that committee comes in, and it is so helpful. And it's a lot of Christ-like situations happen from that group of people, and they're very humble in the way that they serve. They don't want any credit for it. They often don't want people to know, but
Mhm.
they and it's not just supporting me. You mentioned Caroline; she works with uh, people in a recovery coaching set, and supports in a lot of different ways, and so does everybody. It's really just a, that committee feels more like a fellowship opportunity, and
Mhm.
it's certainly been a blessing to be a part of that.
Well, you mentioned something just then that I want you to cover a little bit more. One of the things Matt has been doing, along with working with the committee and going to these 60, 70 organizations, making those connections, he has been all along doing recovery coaching with people and then helping people find treatment. How many people is it that over like you said, you've been here, what, a full year now, almost
Hmm.
6 months
I think you,
as full time? How many people have you
mhm.
helped find treatment centers for?
I believe the number is 14, maybe 14 or 13. Um, there is that that's one of the biggest obstacles, and it when somebody's ready to go or willing to go, and they've been in denial for a long time, and they have that window of wanting, or maybe not wanting is the word to use, willingness just to go. Nobody wants to be there, although I do think one of my stays I wanted to be there. Um, it's very challenging to hear a family member, let's just say, is calling, and for them to hear, well, they need to wait 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, it's it doesn't take much for whoever's trying to orchestrate this to get frustrated in the process. And that's one of the things that we can do, whether it's, we talk a lot about the individuals that are trying to seek recovery, but the other thing that comes into play there is the families. So sometimes
Yeah.
that's helping a family member navigate through, and just letting them know what to expect, what kind of programs they're getting themselves into. Because when you don't have any experience with any of this stuff, you you don't know what you're getting, and there are different types of treatment. There's different options, whether it's inpatient, outpatient, faith based. There's all kinds of different things available out there, and just being able to place those individuals in and unfortunately there's places that aren't healthy. Just like there was a lot of there was a lot of bad things that went on to cause the pill problem that our country is still dealing. Unfortunately, there's a lot of treatment out there that's not really treatment. So being able to just navigate that person to what's the best fit for them is helpful, and it's something people remember. It's they remember that somebody showing them kindness or help in one of the most vulnerable and bad days of their life, and really to walk with them and not judge them is very helpful, I believe, for that whole process. So basically, we just use it's that part of it is we are just a resource to try to facilitate somebody that's wanting to go or needing to go to treatment. The recovery coach part of it is more of just sitting down and figuring out goals. Like I mentioned a minute ago, one of the things that um, I wanted to do was I knew in recovery that I wanted when I that I wanted to help people. Now that goal was a ways off. So a lot of the things that I did was short term goals and then long term goals um, to and that helped. Every time I met one of those goals, it just gave me a little more confidence, and it gave me that hey, this whole process actually works. So basically, what that role is just support, kind of a cheerleader to a certain extent. You want to. It's a big deal when somebody stays sober for 30 days. So
Yeah.
we want to cheer them on in that moment and encourage them to you can't get to 60 days without that 30 days. So to give them those goals. So, and it might look something like, a big part of it is trying to find uh, people that struggle with addiction and also could have backgrounds or have been involved in the criminal justice system, and they're not giving opportunities based on that past. It has been a little bit easier with the employing or with the employer shortage or not employee shortage, um,
Yeah.
but it's still a challenge. And that's just another thing that's going to give people purpose. And what I'm finding is that companies, organizations might be a little iffy about um, the person just showing up. But if I'm calling them from First United Methodist Church saying, "Hey, give them a chance," um, it seems to work a little bit more. And then it's also a conversation with that individual that, look, you're not just doing this for you. This might not be a job that you want to do the rest of your life, but you might be the reason that somebody gets an opportunity in the future, and you might be a reason that somebody doesn't. So I think that's, having those conversations that it's bigger than you is
Yeah.
important.
That's a huge statement that they are part of something that they can help someone else already, which is one of the 12 steps, right? To be in service, to help someone else.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Let me just say, I love that. Matt's told me several times that he's helped connect people, especially those who have been incarcerated, coming out, dealing with their own recovery, find jobs. That people have been, employers have been open to that. It reminds me of how pleased and proud I am of our congregation. When we announced we're going to be going down this path of recovery ministry, one of our One of the questions that we've had all along was, I wonder how our congregation will handle this. And for the most part, we were very positive that our congregation is going to do well, and that has been the case. I am so proud of First United Methodist, how supportive they've been of this entire process, of people who come that might come from different socioeconomic backgrounds that are struggling, into our building, into our lives, and how completely open that our church has been to this process. So for those of you who are a part of our congregation, thank you for that. Thank you, and I hope that you will become a vocal sponsor as we move forward in taking the next step, as our recovery moves forward. Which brings us to this past Sunday. We had kind of your committees have been doing all this background work, but we had your really premier event, the kickoff to the more public side of the ministry, the Tipping the Pain Scale documentary that we watched on Sunday afternoon. Um, I hope we can show it again because it was fantastic. I went because I wanted to be supportive of the ministry, but I had no idea what this documentary was going to be like. Let me recommend it to you. It was wonderful. Matt, can you tell us a little about the Sunday afternoon experience and your impressions from that?
Sure. I mean, powerful would be inspiring would be the first two words that would come to mind. But
Yes.
it's so, and that's kind of ties into what we're trying to do as a ministry, really, because it's when people outside of the it's inspiring to me. I don't want to say that that's not the case, but I hear this so often, these stories of purpose and stories of people just defining all these different odds, and you become a little bit numb to it. And
Yeah.
Sunday, just seeing the reasons behind it, and thinking about the people that I personally know that have done things like that. But the lady that was her friend, she was just mad, and knew that things needed to be changed, and made changes. So like those stories of purpose, and it's or just to see the people, like the football player that looked like that was going to end badly, and turns around. Somebody mentioned to me that they kept thinking that they thought that that the lady that was fighting for her friend, that was going to end tragic.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally get that, but that's the thing. I guarantee you there are people, and not just in my life. I guarantee you there's people that thought that my story was going to end tragic,
Right.
and rightfully so. But I do think that documentary is a good preview of what you will see in the coming months of the people that are, except it'll be more personal because you'll be in the room with them, hearing them, and it's just it was just really a good energy, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
in the room after the documentary was shown.
The 50 or 60 people who showed up were really, and churchy people say this kind of stuff all the time. We were really blessed by that. But in this case, that is exactly the right word. You watch these stories of people who their loved ones could not overcome their addictions, could not overcome their disease. And yet, because there was belief in them, they just kept working, just kept working. And there was celebration. And that's what I hope our ministry ends up grasping. Our church ends up grasping that this is an opportunity to really put our money where our mouth is about believing in resurrection, believing in that there is hope, to really reach out and care for this community. I hope your committee, I hope the recovery committee shows that documentary again. I would love to publicize it. Now that I've seen it, I'd love to stand up in a pulpit and say, "You have a problem if you don't see this documentary. You need to see this if you want to understand what's going on in life." What are some of the future plans? I know it's not all. You don't have a 14-step process yet, but what are some of the things that you look forward to coming in the coming year?
So at this point, we would like to start off with speaker meetings, and that's just going to be individuals sharing their experience, and most of the time the way that works for people that aren't familiar with it, you kind of tell where you were or how things came, and then what's life like today. So that's the neat part of hearing people's stories, is that you really get to see where God has worked in their lives. Um,
Are
and
speaker
and
meetings for everybody or only for people in?
absolutely,
Okay, so
absolutely.
you don't have to have a struggle with addiction to
No,
come to a
no,
speaker meeting. Okay.
we want is anybody there that that wants some experience, strength, and hope. I mean, it also, what it does for the individual that might not um, understand or struggle with some of these things, is it really gives them an opportunity to realize that they're not very different um, from anyone. Jenny mentioned um, in the service last week that if any of us think that we don't have an addiction, that we're to something, we're lying to ourselves. And I think I wholeheartedly believe that, because just because
Hmm.
I'm not using substances that aren't good for me today doesn't mean that I don't have things that I don't want to let down. Caffeine being one of them. So I think we all struggle with something, and it kind of just bridges that gap, I think. Um, and and not only that, and I'm sure it's probably more meaningful to me because I have gone through it, but it's so encouraging to me to be able to hear people where God has brought them from the lowest point in their life or the unthinkable childhood that they have,
Hmm.
and against all these different odds change their lives. And the thing is that there's so many out there. That's what you're going to hear, is that it's a hopeless battle, when in reality there's so many people that I know personally that have these kind of stories of hope, and it's
Hmm.
and really just want to share that with the church as a whole. Um, and then the other part of that is that we will have some more support groups, like where individuals can go in with whatever they're struggling with, and this might be from substances. This uh, could possibly be from codependency. This could be a family support situation, and that's something that we don't talk about as much, but is just as important, is the family support through this. This is not an individual disease. It's going to affect everyone that
Yes.
is involved. So it's very important for those families to heal as well, and to have that
Yes.
support, and to learn what healthy support looks like, and to be given the tools to navigate, because that's a tough situation when your loved one's caught in something like that. um, Nobody's going to handle it perfect, because it rips at the heart. And
Yeah.
it's but you see you see how powerful love is in those um, situations. I don't think that it. I feel pretty confident that all my mother's prayers um, played a role in eventually me getting better.
Yes.
I certainly do. So, and I just think it's important to help um, everybody that's involved, not just the individual.
Yeah. One of my goals is that our congregation will have a more open, ongoing conversation about all the struggles and addictions that we have within our congregation. One of the things I think we're starting to realize is this is not about people who are in the community. It's about members of our church. It's about family members of ours. It's about us who have these active addictions and active struggles. And I hope that we can get to the point where acknowledging that and receiving support becomes a much more commonplace conversation and experience. And I look forward to seeing all the support groups that you're going to begin.
Well, and reducing the stigma there. I think
Yeah.
that's important. Making it okay. It would be really awesome if this church would make people feel comfortable about saying, "Hey, I have a problem with drinking," or "Hey, I've had this struggle," um, because there's going to be a lot of relief for the individual if they can be open and get the support that they need to get.
Yeah.
Man, I want to ask you a question. This is where I throw a curveball. Always, I jump into the conversation, throw a curveball, but I'm not going to throw a curveball. I want to hear more about a program that you've already been leading. It's already been through a couple of iterations, I think. But tell me about Narcan training, and tell me about Narcan in like the most basic layman's terms, and why that's something we should care about.
Okay, sure. So yes, we have been doing this. The Catherine Brunson, the overdose specialist for this county and a couple other surrounding counties, or I don't know what her area is. But once a month, it's the second Wednesday of every month from 5:30 to 7. We are usually staged right out front in the parking lot. And basically, what this does is Narcan or naloxone basically reverses the effects of an opiate overdose. So what this training is going to do is it's going to teach you how, and it's a very easy process. In fact, um, I have one right here. So this is what it looks like. It just looks like, like an allergy, like Flonase or something, and you put that up the nostril, and it will literally save a life. It stops the effects of the overdose. Now, it is short lived, so sometimes it has to be administered more than once. Um, and but it gives paramedics and an opportunity to get there and see what to get them to the hospital is basically.
So, I've heard about this. I've not had any direct experience. I've listened to a few podcasts about that mentioned Narcan and naloxone, and it's remarkable stuff that and a real answer to the a piece of the opioid crisis that I think that I'm especially concerned about. A good friend of mine lost his son to an opiate overdose, in which it was one of the first times we heard about things being laced with fentanyl. Fentanyl is a very, very dangerous substance that if you're not, it just the tiniest little bit can kill you. And it's out there, and it's being abused. As I understand it, just somebody can be literally shutting down, dying, and this medication will pop them right back up to the point that they'll be angry with you because you busted up their high, and ruined their good time, even though they don't know that you saved their life. I mean,
it's not a pleasant experience.
I'm
I
sure.
personally have, I never had to experienced an overdose, but I have administered the medication, and I've watched it be done several times. And it's not a pleasant experience, and here's why: because it is going to put you into a instant withdrawal. And so, yes, that's probably not going to be the most. And Catherine often tells that to people that she's training, that probably people aren't going to jump up and thank you. But the flip side of that is if you're saving a life, you're giving somebody an opportunity at another chance. People can't find, and I hear criticism from time to time, people saying that you're enabling people if they know that they're going to be saved, and that if someone is it to the point, there's plenty of information out there about the fentanyl and drugs and things, and the dangers that are there. If they are going to continue to use those substances, that is a perfect demonstration of powerlessness. They can't stop. So they can't find a chance at recovery if they're not alive.
That's it.
I mean,
That's it.
Do you carry it with you wherever you go? I mean, how do you?
I do. I have several in here, but then I also usually keep it on me at all times as well. Because you never know where it's gonna. I mean, you never know. You hear cases of being at a grocery store, or where at gas stations happens a lot, that you find somebody unresponsive at a gas pump, and it's pretty easy to identify the signs of an overdose. So it's, people can, if it's there now, most, the paramedics are going to have it as well. But sometimes it takes them or the first responders, but it takes them a minute to get there. So it's,
it was really interesting. The first time that we had Matt and I can't think of her name do the Narcan training out in our front yard. It was on a Wednesday night, second Wednesday of every month. And one of the questions was, "Oh no, people will be coming to pick up their children from First Steps. Is that going to be a bad thing? Are they going to be angry that this is out there?" And that very first night, a woman who was coming to pick up her child from First Steps said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here." I think, Matt, wasn't it her brother had overdosed?
Yeah, there was a family. The individual had a family member that struggled, and that's always, people don't have compassion about this topic until they've experienced it, and then they have a lot of compassion because they realize that that's their loved one that you're talking about as a whole. So yeah, we've had a lot of interest, I guess would be the word to use, from the parents at First Steps. I mean, whether it just be like a casual conversation, or, "Hey, tell me a little bit more about this medication," And the more that we can get in this, in the community, the better. Like the overdoses are way up, and I feel like that's me harping on that all the time. Almost doesn't. It almost is ineffective because you hear it so much that it's just you become kind of numb to it. I mean, you hear it everywhere. You hear it on TV. You hear it on the radio. You hear it. And so, but we do have an issue. And what has been the most surprising thing to me through this whole process is that this is happening at a way younger age than if you would have asked me a year ago. If somebody would have asked me at like the high school levels, would this ministry be affected? And I would have probably said, no, I don't think there's a need. But unfortunately, there is a need. And so, because a lot of these substances are found in other substances that wouldn't be considered as dangerous. I mean, there's cases of fake pills that they think they're taking hydrocodone and it's laced. Heard cases of it being in marijuana, heard cases of cocaine, methamphetamines. I really struggle with why in the world, from a business standpoint, would somebody that's selling substances unknowingly put a substance that could kill them. I mean, it's not obviously a legal business, but I would think that they would still want customers. So I can't understand why and how that this is even happening, but unfortunately it is, and I think it's one of the things that can be done is get this medication out to people. It's non-narcotic, it's free, and it might literally save a life.
One question Luann asked: does it have a shelf life? Does it go bad?
It does. I'm not sure. I think. Let's see. I can't remember. That would be a question for Catherine. It does, but I think they usually have expiration dates. Yeah, like this one expires August 2024.
So it's like any medication. It's
Mm-hmm.
it has.
And it's not, and they will replace that. That's another thing. I'm glad that thank you for that question, because that was something that happened the last time we set up. Was somebody showed up and said, hey, my Narcan is about to expire, and they got new Narcan. And I think what she does with the other is that when it's getting close at a certain time, and I'm not sure what that time frame is, she will give them to some of the homeless shelters, I believe, that are administrating this on a lot more frequently, or more frequently administrating it so that it doesn't go to waste. So, but yes, to answer the question, yes, it does have an expiration, but that's just a process of getting a new.
We've got just a couple more minutes, and I want to get to this question from Laura McLean. Is there a good way to express support to a family who has a member who's going through substance abuse? And I think we're all concerned a lot of times. I mean, we're concerned about being intrusive, being a busybody, being, just up in somebody's business too much, and is there, you have an answer for Laura's question? It's a great one.
I think just being there, listening, not trying to fix the situation, reinforcing that you love them is a big thing, and just being encouraging. And they're unfortunately, most of the time when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, there's a reason that people work the steps, because they've caused problems, and they were difficult, and that's not the time to be voicing those frustrations when they're trying to get help. Like, it just needs to be a supportive, we love you. Maybe there's problems in the future, but right now the focus is getting you better. And just that encouragement, I think, is the best way that you can handle that.
And
Not telling them what to do.
and for the family, that's exactly right. The same thing in ministry of presence. You are with them. You're not trying to tell them what to do.
That's the hardest part of pastoral training, I think, is when we're first told, in seminary, it's not your job to fix it or give advice. Nobody likes unsolicited advice. It's just your job to be there. But being there is so important and so powerful.
And it's going to give the loved one peace too, because I think probably through that whole process of my personal journey, I think when I got to E.M. Jelinek Center in Knoxville and they told my mom, hey, let us take care of this. You take care of yourself, and we are more than capable of helping him. And so not only it took stress off me, but it probably took stress off her to not have that burden, because she couldn't fix me as much as she wanted to try to fix me. So
well, we do have to wrap up. I'm playing a little exit music, just to pipe things up a little bit. Matt, huge thanks. I mean, you're such an incredible gift to this, not just the congregation, but the community. And I'm beside myself that First Church has decided to really make a commitment to this, and that we have you in the driver's seat, and such amazing volunteers like Carolyn and others. There has never been a more important time for this. This is right where we need to be, as far as I'm concerned. What do you think, Mark?
Not only that, yes. I want to make sure we address Jennifer Walker's question in the chat, which is this training for Narcan happens the second Wednesday of every month in our front parking lot. So you'll see Matt out there with his little table and his, I can't think of the woman's name, but she'll be there. You can pull up. What time does that start, Matt?
5:30 to 7, I believe.
Yep, and 5:30 to 7. And I just want to make sure that you know that's available. Pass that on. And I agree with Steve. Thank you so much, Matt. You are wonderful, the real deal, and we're glad you're in ministry with us.
Thank you both. I appreciate
and I'm proud to say that people think that we're brothers, that you're my little brother or something. I don't know.
The truth's coming out about why I really got hired was because I was bald.
I don't know. I think we might need to talk to Staff Parish about that there's a bias towards bald guys in the hiring practices of this church. Don't tell Linda. Everybody, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Thank you for supporting this ministry. And, Mark, I'm going to let you take us out of here.
I'm just want to make sure everybody knows next week we'll be talking to Shelby Fowler. Our church staff has developed its own Vacation Bible School curriculum because we found what we saw on the market was inadequate. It didn't actually, it always had the same bias of trying to get kids to an altar call experience. So we're going to be talking about at what age you can have that conversation about salvation with your children. We're going to talk about what the goal of Vacation Bible School is and the really, really cool process of Space Trek that our staff has developed for Vacation Bible School. So see you all next week. And that'll be the final Thursday Live. We're going to take a break for the summer. So
for this season, we're taking a little hiatus, and Mark and I are going to you're going to use this time on Thursdays to make some plans about some other great big things. So it's really, it's good. It's been a great time having these conversations with you guys. We want to step it up, kick it up a notch, and move forward into the fall with a lot of good new energy. So good stuff. Thanks everybody for being here, and see us again next week. Okay.
Thanks again, Matt.
Thank you.